Spanning across the North American continent as far south as the border shared between Mexico and Texas, the interior plains are a staple of the geography of the province of Alberta. Acting as the divider between the rigid Rocky Mountains and the Canadian Shield, the plains are just one of many regions that host the original Canadian Pacific Transcontinental Railroad. The 1880s would have the CP building its railway through these plains from Medicine Hat to Calgary before continuing westward towards British Columbia and the Rockies. In today's era, this stretch of twin ribbons is known as CPKC's Brooks Subdivision. While often overlooked in favor of the mountains to the west, in this production we'll be giving you a front row seat of rail operations on the subdivision. Beginning in the railroad's headquarters in Calgary, we will work our way east to the outskirts of Medicine Hat, spotting a variety of freight trains such as coast-to-coast hotshot intermodals, grains, local freight jobs, and more. This is CPKC, across the Alberta Plains. Welcome to Calgary, a prime example of modernism with its impressive skyline and massive economic presence. It is the third largest city within Canada behind Montreal and Toronto. Though it has evolved with the times, the city still honors its Western heritage in the form of Stampede, one of the world's largest rodeos. CPKC's Alyth Yard is one of the busiest in Western Canada, and with very good reason. Not only does the 168-acre facility provide maintenance on the locomotive fleet and countless rail cars, but trains are classified out of here in every direction. The hump yards have been long gone now, so switching jobs powered by remote control motors can be seen moving 24/7, such as this one. General Electric AC 4400 number 8549 is seen making its way into the yard to attach to the rear of a manifest. This manifest will be departing eastbound onto the Brooks subdivision later today. In 1996, the Canadian Pacific would move its headquarters from Montreal to here in Calgary, where it has remained as such into the formation of CPKC in April of 2023. Just east of Alyth Yard, the Ogden campus hosts the executive offices for the railway, along with state-of-the-art training facilities for new employees joining the ranks. The site was originally used by the railroad as locomotive and railcar shops and also saw the production of massive guns for the Royal Canadian Navy during the Second World War. CPKC Heritage Operations is also based out of Ogden. The Royal Canadian Pacific Fleet is stored within the property along with the pride of the railroad, Canadian Pacific 2816, the Hudson-type steam locomotive that is currently enjoying some well-earned downtime after the system-wide Final Spike steam tour. CPKC proudly displays relics of the past outside of their offices, the Canadian Pacific 29 and the CP 1400. The 29 is an A1-E class 440 type steam locomotive that served the CP for 72 years. Of course, during that period, the engine had undergone an extensive rebuild. While the 29 had a stint in tourist line service, the Canadian Pacific would purchase the 29 back for static display purposes outside of their corporate offices. CP 1400 is an FP7 built for the railroad in 1953. After the F units were being phased out on the CP, it would find solitude with Via Rail for a time. Like sister FP9A locomotive number 1401, the locomotive was sold to the Nebkota Railway in Nebraska before being reacquired by CP. Before being put into static display, 1400 assisted in pulling the Royal Canadian Pacific business train. Of course, the entire Ogden campus is stationed right by the main line for the Brooks subdivision. Coming out of Alyth Yard heading eastbound, hotshot intermodal train 148 is seen on its first steps onto the Brooks subdivision. An AC-44 rebuild is leading the charge solo. This stack train originated from Roberts Bank Port in Vancouver and is making way for Bensenville, Illinois, just outside of the Chicago Metroplex. These stack trains that you'll be seeing in this video are often measuring in well over 10,000 or 11,000 feet long. Mid-train DPUs along with helpers on the rear are common sight. The 148 did have a mid DPU, but it turns out I didn't hit the record button. Rookie mistake. In a blink and you'll miss it moment, the signal in the background has turned green, indicating that a westbound is being lined through once the 148 clears. The train in question is a westbound loaded grain train bound for Vancouver. These often run as Train 301, but often have different origin points throughout Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. ES44AC locomotive number 8759 is seen leading the train. Trailing second is one of Union Pacific's EMD Tier 4 SD70s. At the time of filming, CPKC is testing out 10 of these motors on their trains. A future order to Progress Rail could be seen if the railroad is satisfied with the performance of these engines. As a KCS SD70 rolls by on DPU, we'd call it a day in Calgary. Soon we would be heading east, away from the skyscrapers and into the wide open fields. Agriculture equipment of all shapes and sizes grazing the wide open fields is common sight throughout Alberta. The region has a heavy emphasis on farming and acts as one of the unsung heroes for its contribution to Canada and the rest of the globe. The Brooks subdivision runs right through countless small farming hamlets and serves many of the silos spread out in the area. On the west side of Carseland, our first train of the day is 243. This is an expedited mixed freight out of St. Paul, Minnesota, which will take a turn to the north once reaching Calgary to make its final destination of Edmonton. A trio of road engines make up the head end, 2 Kansas City Southern Gevos, and a Golden Beaver sandwiched in the middle. We'd find ourselves in Carseland for a few hours due to the increase of traffic. More KCS Southern Bells would show up on train 603. This loaded potash train is on its way westbound to British Columbia. Going back 2 years ago, I'm sure local rail fans would be ecstatic to see KCS power all the way up here. Now, a year and a half after the merger, the power pools of KCS and CP have fully integrated, and this is now common sight, just as CP power is the norm down south. Kansas City Southern number 4806 leads its train around the sharp curve as it continues the journey westward. Working around road traffic is local C46, the Carseland turn. A pair of GP20C-Ecos are making a light move back to the industries to the west. The C46 serves multiple facilities here in Carseland. These include grain elevators, a nitrogen producer, an ammonium nitrate facility, and more. The pair of Jeeps have a short window to clear the main line because a hotshot auto-rack train is closing in. We opt to stay in position by the Richardson Pioneer silos to await it. The structure looms over the main line, making the trains look like small toys. This facility has enough rail cars flowing in and out that it requires a dedicated locomotive to switch. Here we see Richardson Pioneer number 403 enjoying the Labor Day holiday as it sits idle. The locomotive is a GP15-1 and sports the corporate black and orange colors. Train 106 peeks out of the silo's shadows as it makes way for Montreal. This is a coast-to-coast train that originates out of the intermodal facilities in Vancouver. Automobile traffic is a major component of freight moved along the Canadian Transcon. CPKC has been working on expanding its automotive presence in the North American continent, with large amounts being shipped between Chicago and Mexico. Just recently, a new transload facility in Wiley, Texas has opened for business to assist in the transportation of auto racks in the South. Also within the Deep South, awaiting approval from the STB, the Meridian and Bigby deal has hopes to generate automotive traffic from fellow Class 1 CSX. Multiple vehicle manufacturers are building factories in the southeastern U.S. and CSX territory, and with their completion in the coming years, expectations of even more auto rack loads have grown. While lighting would not be favoring this train for the rest of the day, we begin to work our way east to follow the 106 towards Medicine Hat, in hopes of intercepting any westbounds it could be meeting. In an area referred to as Bartstow, the 106 has met another high-priority train heading west down the line. Searchlights remain dominant across a majority of the Canadian Transcon. Across the U.S., older signals have numbered days as the replacement of them has skyrocketed over the past few years. If you're a big signal buff, add this route to your to-do list. Our westbound train is 149, from the Chicago area bound for Vancouver. Throughout 1882 and 1883, the Canadian Pacific would slowly work its way through Alberta during the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. Once reaching Calgary, the city would begin to grow exponentially into what it is now. Along with the railroad came telegraph lines, which would instantly connect Calgary with the rest of the country and world. Soon after, the CP would build multiple new routes out of the city, along with the rest of the province. All of it stemmed from the construction of a single route, and its effect can still be seen on a daily basis. Just to the south of a Canadian Forces base, we find ourselves on the outskirts of Medicine Hat in Suffield. If you're just driving through not having an eye out for rail activity, there's not much to notice, but for our purposes, this small hamlet had a decent bit of activity. A small yard resides here. Manifest Train 411 is working its way forward to the west end of the siding, where it will meet the 106. Today seemed to be a good day for anyone who prefers single-motor lead trains. After catching multiple hotshots with single leads, this manifest would be dropping off the trailing motor for what I assume to be mechanical issues, and the following stack train behind it would also have a single motor on the point. The 411 is halted and awaits the 106 to clear. The crewman will hop out of the cab to conduct a mandatory roll-by inspection to ensure everything is looking up to par. "106 has cleared, and its crew's journey for the day is almost over, but the crew for our westbound still has a long way to go before reaching Calgary." Built in December of 2006, the 8830 is a General Electric ES44AC locomotive. Its worn-out candy apple red paint is showing the 18 years of service. With the second motor being dropped off just down the line, the only assistance this old workhorse is going to have is a mid-train DPU. We can see from a great distance that this mid-train is being put to the test. To our pleasant surprise, it's one of the SD70 ACUs that Canadian Pacific selected to put into their classic royal paint scheme. The sun is setting, and we decide to begin working back towards our lodging in Calgary. In Tilley, we find Manifest Train 242 awaiting for the 411 and the intermodal behind it to clear. CPKC Dispatch decided to allow the stack to run around our 411 somewhere between here and Suffield, so our last train of the day would be Intermodal Train 119, which runs from Montreal to Edmonton. I hope that you've enjoyed our day out across the Brook subdivision. We have one more video of our expedition to Canada, and it'll be the largest one yet as we span across 3 subdivisions in the heart of the Canadian Rockies. But before we get to that, we do have a quick video back home in Louisiana. Whichever one you're looking forward to more, stay tuned. We got some good stuff on the way. But until the next time, my friends, I'll be seeing you somewhere out there along the rails, and as always, thanks for watching.